All right, I was retired CP Lawrence Alubi speaking there in our previous conversation on the issue of the role of the traditional institutions in conflict resolution yesterday. Today we have guests already here in the studio, and let me begin the introduction with Dr. Mike Ejiofor, is former Director, State Security Services. So I'd like to welcome you and compliment of the season.
Happy New Year.
Yes, same to you, sir. All right. We also have right here with us in the studio, he had to come all the way from Yobe State to join us live, Baba Othman Ngezama, who is the president of the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria. Baba, thank you very much for making it here this morning.
Thank you for having me, and good morning for everyone.
All right, also joining us for the conversation from Kaduna, we have Barrister Francis Danladi Koza, the Satyam Atiap. He hails from Atiap Chiefdom in Zango Kataf local government area of Kaduna State, and also the former vice chairman of Zango Kataf local government area. Many thanks for joining us, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here. Compliments to all Nigerians.
Many thanks, Barrister Danladi there. And in the course of the program, we'll have Dr. Sally Momale, the Executive Vice Chairman, Kaduna State Peace Commission, join us for the conversation. But for now, we'll begin with the guest that we already have seated. And it's a continuous conversation, you know, like we already mentioned, you know, from some days ago, we've been talking about this. And so maybe we just want to begin.
Sorry, anyway, let's start with Baba.
Okay.
Yes, let's start with Baba. Baba, you know, was here during our first conversation, and unfortunately, the network was not favorable at the time.
Yeah.
But I would like Baba to give us an insight, you know, into how conflictual issues, you know, like maybe indigenship, maybe, you know, grazing root rights, ordinary, you know, civil matters. What model was used to resolve such issues that worked within your geographical space before now?
Good morning, everybody. Best compliments of the season. You see, the farmer-herder conflict has been there for quite some time. And it has lingered for so long now. Not only lingering, it's allowed to metamorphose into so many other things. From farmer-herder conflict, then we come to witness cattle rustling, small scale to large scale cattle rustling. Then from cattle rustling, then kidnapping came up. And kidnapping was on until when it metamorphosed into banditry. That is what is disturbing everybody today in Nigeria. Before this time, skirmishes do happen between the farmer and the herder across the country. You know, the relationship is of teeth and tongue. They are created to coexist together. They have been coexisting, and when such relationships happen, conflicts are bound to happen at the same time. But during those times, when there were good communication between them, when there was better understanding among them, you know, conflicts are mostly resolved within the vicinity of the conflict. You see the farmer and the herder settling their dispute right in the farmland. Your animal has made this destruction. Yes, I agree, I can see it. So they settle, they shake hands and continue to live peacefully. That was before. But with the emergence of politics, you know, since become so difficult, you know, politicians use whatever means to get what they want. If religion is what they have to use to get what they want, they use religion. If tribalism, ethnicity is what they want to use to get what they want, they use it. So when politics came, that good relationship, that good understanding, that good communication between these two got lost. So
but what was the role of the, because you had elders, you had well-respected faith leaders within that, the northern axis that were also, or should also, provide some form of, arbitration. So what, at that point in time, how did they play that role?
Well, you see, during that time, all the herders that were living within a particular domain, they are well known to the other traditional ruler or the village head or the district head.
Okay, they were well known.
Because they do collect taxes from them then. But when those taxes were abolished, so that was when the attention on them became so little, to the extent that today, no traditional ruler knows how many pastoralists are living within his domain. That is what is making the situation even worse. So, and even those who are living in the far southern part of the country, they live under Ardos. It is the tradition of the pastoralist. Whenever he goes to live, he has to register his presence to the immediate local leader, pastoralist leader, that is normally called the Ardo. He registers his presence, and these Ardos are not appointed by other government or Miete Allah. These Ardos are mostly appointed by the traditional rulers in those areas. Wherever you go to Nigeria today, if you see Ardos, that Ardo must have been appointed by the traditional institution in that area. So through the Ardos, those traditional institutions know that pastoralists are living in their domain. They have a very important role to play, and if not the most important role to play in solving these issues. But because government is not given much attention to them, that is what made the trouble become so much. The traditional rulers have a very important role to play. When they are collecting taxes, they know the pastoralists who are living in their domain, and the farmers are well known to them because they collect after the season. Farmers normally bring appreciation to the traditional rulers. So also the pastoralists. So, but because of the neglect of the traditional institution by the government, maybe with the creation of the local government, attention was shifted from the traditional institution mostly to the local governments. And the local government employees are normally transferred from different places to come and stay. They are not mostly the indigenous of those areas. So, and when they come, they are always concerned with their administrative local government activities. They don't give much attention to security aspect, and not only the security aspect, they don't give much attention to the roles of the traditional rulers. If they had, things will not be what we see today. So they have a very important role to play. If attention will be given to traditional rulers, they have their traditional way of solving these issues. And even today that we have it becoming more complex, still if we can go back to the grassroots approach, to the community-based approach, I'm sure these things will be over. Okay. But the absence of these community-based approaches, that is why we are having these problems. The stakeholders in this crisis must be made to define their own peace. Let them be involved in the decision of how to achieve peace in their respective communities. That is what we call the community-based approach. If we can adopt the community-based approach, allowing every stakeholder in that community to define their own peace, sit them together. If they are the farmers, ask them, what's your problem? What are your problems with these pastoralists? What are they doing to you? How can we solve this problem? Go to the pastoralist community, ask them, what is your problem with the farmers? What is your problem with the security? How can we solve this problem? Go to the traditional rulers. Go to the whatever they call themselves, either the NSAK or the vigilante, these non-state actors. Go to their leadership, sit them, ask them, what do you want? What are these pastoralists doing to you? How can we solve the problem? By the time you collect all this information, I am sure you will come over the whole thing, because roles will be clearly spelled out for everybody. The traditional rulers' roles will be clear, the security roles will be clear, the government roles will be clear, and the roles of each particular stakeholder will be clearly spelled out by the time you collect all this information, analyze them, and bring them under one roof. You realize that roles will become clearly spelled out for everybody to function in solving the problem of security in this country.
All right. Many thanks, Baba Hoffman, for your opening comments there. And you have said that it's the absence of community-based approach that has made the issues in different communities to escalate to the point that it is now. But I'll get to you, Mike Ejiofor. You listened to Baba Hoffman, talk about some of the issues why the community leaders can no longer intervene in these issues. I'd like to hear your thoughts about that. But again, some people have also said that the reason why some of these communal clashes are on the rise is because some of these community leaders have also compromised. They have begun to take sides with certain people and certain quarters, if you like, politicians, and maybe that's why they are not being able to take hold of their communities and restore peace. What are your thoughts, really?
Well, I completely agree with his submission, Baba, in his first comments. The pastoralists, the herders, and the farmers, they have been coexisting from time. There have been clashes, along the Benue Plateau axis. But this thing did not escalate until 2015. About 2015, we now had foreign elements that have invaded Nigeria for whatever reason. So it becomes very difficult for the communal leaders to integrate or discuss with the people they don't know. Most of these people are not known to the communities. People operating, killing people, and all this. And whoever brought them for whatever reason, what we are looking for are solutions. How we can get out of this. If you notice that this mass killing, that's why I agree with him that this is political. Our political elites look for a way of dividing us for their own benefits. And they forget that if there's no Nigeria, there won't be a place for them to even govern or participate in politics. So the earlier the politicians realize the futility of their mission and to abandon it, the better for us. Like I said, the mass killing is concentrated mainly between Plateau, Kaduna, Benue, and most of them are religiously or ethnic based. Trying to struggle for land and the pastoralists, like he said. I remember when I was in Ogun State as a state director, when there's a conflict between the Fulanis and the farmers, we'll call them to a meeting. We'll resolve them. Compensations are paid. And people lived harmoniously. But now that we don't know the people perpetrating this, it becomes a problem. If you notice, like I said, the concentration of these mass killings is the north central and the north east. It's not so. I think it was only in Enugu that we had a case of mass killing. Well, and the people came together to say, no, we must resist this. And for some time now, we don't have the issue of mass killing. What we have mainly in the south is kidnapping by this same group of people. If you come to the north, the mass killings, we must get the people involved. I've said this in times without number. How long shall we continue like this? Distress calls, like this last incident of the Christmas Eve in Bocos. Distress calls were made, and these people operated for hours. Hundreds of people killed without any intervention. But I'm happy, I think it was yesterday or this morning I was listening to radio. They say some arrests have been made. After these mass killings, arrests are not made. But now that some arrests have been made, according to the Commissioner of Police and the Chief of Defense Staff, maybe it will serve as a lead during interrogation to get what is the main purpose, what are the objectives of these marauders that are killing people in hundreds.
Let me also, remind you, Dr. Jofo, that apart from the political angle that Baba brought in, he also talked about the shift in the administrative system and the attention, their immediate attention, which sort of eroded, the traditional role that the traditional institutions provided, sort of arbitrative, measures to reconcile matters, conflicts, and all that. And that brings me to, the impact of our present criminal code system on the native customs law and system. There seems to be a conflict.
Well, you see, there seems to be a conflict. Yes, I agree with you. But like I said, the traditional institutions, the traditional rulers, the various communities have limitations in intervening. Intervening because I said from the beginning, they don't know the people they are dealing with.
But in the past, there were no limitations.
There were no limitations.
The limitations were provided with the introduction of the English system, isn't it?
The traditional, they had no limitations because the people were cohabiting. They knew the farmers. I'll give you an example. From my own experience. It's not what I read in the book. When I was kidnapped, when these marauders see the pastoralists with their cattle, they ask us to move, that these people will now go and inform the police that they are here. So the mass killing is not from the headers. You get the point I'm making? It's not from the headers, but from these marauders who have infiltrated and invaded this country. That where we must concentrate to know where did they come from. Since 2015, they have been causing havoc, causing mayhem in the country. And it's something we must deal decisively with.
Are you implying that recent attacks, we just read about what has happened in Kaduna, the recent attack in Kaduna, in Plateau. Are you implying that the attackers were marauders?
Of course.
External,
That's, yes. And you see, these people live in the forest. They don't live within the communities. And that is why our military should deploy technological equipment like the drones. When you get information, because before they attack, they even give information. So it's not issue of not having the intelligence that these people are going to attack. So deploy these drones and get these people, as they are coming, they are attacked. Like the fatal incident with the Air Force. I think that's what we should be doing when they are coming, although the wrong targets were gotten in that case. But this is what we should concentrate our efforts. And for people who have the experience in managing these conflicts, people who have been in the theater, I was listening to General Ayola, who was one of the commanders in Plateau. He said he has proffered solutions, provided papers. Why would the military or the government not exhume the paper and look at the merits of the paper and see what can be done to restore peace, especially in the Plateau?
All right, many thanks, Mike Ejiofor. I think we'll get back to you, but let's go to Kaduna now, and Barrister Francis Danladi Koza is there. You've heard the comments made so far, that those who carry out these crimes are not part of the community. They're marauders from other parts, other countries who have infiltrated Nigeria and going about their business and causing so much problem for us. But would you say that's the case, for Kaduna State? What really are the issues there? You think that these people are not known, and that's why community leaders cannot, broker peace between the warring parties?
Very much. The discussions that is currently going on the issue is very, very well positioned. First of all, let me make this point, that prior to the coming of constitutional governance in Nigeria, people responsible for security issues were abandoned. Now, why did I say so? Because before the coming of constitutional governance, it was the community, the traditional rulers, that were responsible for security. And the people themselves have the inherent right and duty to secure themselves, to secure their environment, to secure their community. And they were carrying out this work very successfully. And that was why we have relative peace in that period. The traditional rulers oversee this traditional way of solving problems, of ensuring peace and security in the community. But with the coming in of constitutional governance, those responsible for the security of the people were moved. Now, the president becomes the chief security officer. The governor becomes the chief security officer. The local government chairman becomes the chief security officer. And these people are far from where the incidence of insecurity is experienced. And so what happened? When something happened in the village, the people have to wait for the governor or the local government chairman or the president to give instruction that this be done. And before then, things have gone their way. So the first thing I say is that the shifting of responsibility of security from the people themselves, and shifting it to the governor, to the president, to the local government chairman, creates an avenue for the enhancement of insecurity in Nigeria. And I think this must be addressed. The second point I want to stress is that in those days, prior to the coming of constitutional governance, people did not see criminals as a particular group or a particular religion. The criminals were seen as criminals and treated as such. So if there was a criminal in the community, the whole community see him as a criminal, irrespective of who is his brother, who is his father, what is his language, what is his tradition, what is his religion. They treat him as the criminal that he is. But today, things have greatly changed. Criminals are seen, number one, as a particular ethnic group. Criminals are seen as a particular religion, and so on and so forth. And so they get sympathy from members of their community, of their ethnic group, or from their religion. And so when something happens, instead of seeing the person as a criminal, we now see him as maybe as my own. The chief security officer, the commander that is in charge, will now see him as he is my people. Let me protect them. And so it becomes a problem. And so for me, that is another big problem. The third point I want to make is that, look, let me tell you, I come from Zongo Ketam local government area, from the Etiap chiefdom that was worst hit right from 2015 up to the middle of this year. And I was actively involved in trying to make peace among my people. The truth of the matter is that those headers that live with us have no problem whatsoever. We know them. There were headers that live very close to my family house. We go there, we interact with them, we go to the bush with them, we rear cattle with them, they come back and so on and so on. We have things with them. But from 2015, a lot of people that are unknown infiltrated that chiefdom. If you go to Zangon town, you will find out that that is a small settlement with no grazing facility. But that place is chocked up with so many headers in that place. Where did they come from? Sorry. Where did they come from? Where did they come from? And the traditional ruler have said, look, move these people, let them go back to where they come from. Those who we know, the headers that we know, that are living with our people, are there comfortably. So what do we do? And he has talked about that, he has talked about time without number. And we have made presentation to government and said, look, gentlemen, let these people go back to where they come from. In Zongo town, there's nowhere, there's no facility for grazing. It's purely a modern settlement. Why do you chop up that place? And prior to that, that place was 100% occupied by Hausas. The Fulanis were not staying there. They were staying with the rural people in our own villages. And we know them. We interact with them. So where are these people coming from? So government must decide. Number one, let these people go back to where they are coming from. And then number two, security issues. I believe strongly that there's the need for government to introduce community policing. Community policing under the direct control of the traditional rulers. People have said that they are going to abuse it and so on and so forth. You cannot determine whether there's going to be an abuse or not until you practice it. Once there's abuse, there's always a remedy. So I feel strongly that, number one, this issue of making the president, the governor, the local government chairman, as the chief security officers of the various tiers of government must be reviewed. Because the president who lives in Abuja does not know what is happening in Zangon. The governor who lives in Kaduna may not know what is happening in Sanga. And so on and so forth. And so if you say he is in charge of the security apparatus, he gives command, and something happened in Sanga, you have to wait for the governor or the president to give the quota. Before then, everything has gone bad. So let us review the system and ensure that we empower the traditional institution in those areas. Give them the control of some level of security apparatus. Empower them financially with money. Let them have the resources with which to fight insecurity. Let them have the people with which to mobilize to be able to maintain peace and security in their community. I believe that if this is done, we will have the relative peace, we will enjoy peace. Well, and then finally, let me just say this point, that with the coming in of this present administration, at least in my own area, in a chiefdom of Zongo, we have been enjoying relative peace. Why? Because the political will of the present government to the effect that people will be held responsible for their action, and the change of attitude of some security personnel in that area has enhanced the relative peace we are enjoying. And I think this message should be sent clear, that government's body language should be clear, that no criminal will be spared, irrespective of who he is and where he comes from. Thank you. He comes from.
Barrister Francis Danladi Koza, thank you for the points that you've raised. We have Dr. Saleh Momale, Executive Vice Chairman, Kaduna State Peace Commission, joining us via Zoom from Kano State. And of course, just to also put to you, Dr. Momale, just yesterday, my colleague Jume and I were, commending the efforts of the State Peace Commission in quelling, conflicts. Unfortunately, we woke up to hear of, another deadly attack. How is the Peace Commission reacting to what has happened?
Thank you very much again, the National Television Authority, for your continuous contributions in this critical national discourse, trying to see input from varied stakeholders on what needs to be done to better secure our communities. Quite many apologies. The audio at my end here is not very good, so I have not heard very clearly the contributions of other speakers. However, there are huge challenges the country is facing as a whole, Kaduna State and many other states in the country as well. These challenges have to do with so many systemic issues that have stemmed up, not only within the shores of Nigeria, but with a lot of contributions from what is going on, but at the West Africa and the broader Sahelian region, as well as other parts of the world. And these have to do with the global proliferation of small arms and light weapons all over, so in such a way that these weapons are at the disposal of non-state actors throughout the Sahel and West Africa, as well as some.
Back to him as soon as we can rectify that. But let's get to Baba Hoffman now. You know, listening to you, Barrister Francis, and of course Mike Jaffer talk about the fact that you know, these crimes are being carried out by people who are not part of the community, people who have infiltrated these communities. It leads me to ask, you can actually put your fingers on the number of communities that are affected. So does it mean that these are the places where these people, are? Are you saying that there's no infiltration in other parts of the country? And why are we not seeing the kind of attacks that we're seeing? We just mentioned some states that, are the main places where you find this conflict escalating and causing serious concern. So my question is, are you saying that in other parts of this country, we don't have, people too who have also infiltrated those communities? So why are we not having the same kind of problems that we see in these states? That's one. Then talking about the community leaders, you talked about the fact that they were taking taxes in the past so they could, ensure security of their people and all of that. Besides having funds, there are other roles community leaders, can play outside, having, taxes, to be able to, there are ways you could talk to your people. There are things you could do, in a communal living that, of course, would help peace. So could you please speak to that? And then let us know, really, why these places that are the flashpoints are the major targets.
Well, you see, the crisis peculiar to particular states. The difference of the crisis are peculiar. Each state has its own peculiarity. Depending that leads to the type of crisis the crisis they experience. What my brother rightly said is there is that possibility of infiltration of foreign pastoralists coming in. That cannot be ruled out because of the porous borders we have, and because of the ECOWAS Transhuman Protocol that allows for movement of pastoralists from the ECOWAS countries. So you see them moving right from Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, coming into Nigeria, passing through Cameroon to Central Africa. And they have their recognized routes that are recognized by the ECOWAS, monumented and protected. So they move through those routes. And most of the times, a particular pastoralist moving through that route may not even know when he's in Nigeria, maybe until when he's in need of something, and he comes into town to buy. That is when he will realize that he has left Niger, is now in Nigeria, because they move through the international route. So, and it's a monumental route, documented, that allows them to move freely. The neighboring countries have their check-in and check-in out systems, but Nigeria, we don't have any. Maybe because of the forest border that extends to over 2,000 kilometers from the western part to the eastern part of Nigeria, starting from the Niger border in the west down to Chad border in the east. So, because of the porous border, government has not come up with any form of checking in and checking out of the pastoralists. So pastoralists do move freely into Nigeria and go out of Nigeria freely. So most of the times without notice of the security agencies because of the porous nature. And, you know, as I told you, crises are peculiar to states. What is the causes of the crisis in Kaduna may not be the same of the causes of crisis in Oyo, Taraba, and the rest. They all have their peculiarities. And the causes of those crises also differ depending on the states. They differ depending on particular states. What we experience in Plateau now is not much about land issue. It's much about this indigenous settler dichotomy that we are talking about. And, you know, media also has an important role to play. Sometimes the propaganda against the pastoralists is just too much, to the extent that today every society, every community in Nigeria see the pastoralists, an average pastoralist, as a criminal. And what we always say is a rich man doesn't fight. The pastoralist moves with all his family, with all he has, which is the cow, living in deep heart of the forest, with children, wife, and everything. You cannot expect this guy to go and ignite trouble for him to get killed. And he knows very well that he's being surrounded by the natives. Assuming my brother was talking of Enugu. If you go to the Enugu forest, there's no forest you go to in Enugu that you will not find a pastoralist living deep down in the forest. And even in places where the natives don't dare go to because of the fear of the forest. But the pastoralists go there and live with all their families and their children. And they know very well they don't belong to that community. They went there in search of pasture and water for their herds. And they are living in the midst, within, surrounded by the natives. So you cannot expect this guy having this information and living with all his family and all he has in this world to just go and provoke trouble for him to be killed. It's impossible.
Let me ask you, Baba. You just talked about the fact that the peculiarity of what is happening in Plateau State, and you said it's basically indigenous settler dichotomy, which means that these are people who have been living there in Plateau State, within those communities.
Exactly.
They are known.
They are.
How is your Miyetti Allah Association dealing with this issue now? How are you handling it? What are the resolution mechanisms that you are putting? Because this is the association is an umbrella body of all the pastoralists.
What we are doing is more of sensitization. We sensitize our people against getting themselves involved in conflicts, against getting them involved in security-related issues. That is why in Plateau, when I was talking to you the day before yesterday on their Zoom, I made mention that find out from the security agencies in Plateau State, whatever happens to the pastoralists before it happens, the pastoralists normally report. We don't allow our members to take laws into their arms, into their hands. We always sensitize them against taking laws into their hands, because it's a poor man that fights, a rich man doesn't fight. Even this new one that took place, you know, I told you the genesis. It's about cattle wrestling. Some communities decided to take cattle from the pastoralists, maybe for the Xmas festivities, I don't know. About 180 cows were wrestled from the pastoralists, and that was reported to the military, who went after the wrestlers and had a fight with them and retrieved those cows back.
But that still does not justify the fact that the whole community, over 200 people, were slaughtered. But that's not our focus. Our focus is to look at what can be done. How can the community-based traditional institutions mediate and bring a resolution, de-escalate conflict? And that's why I'm asking, what is Miyetti Allah doing at the moment to prevent, not just in Plateau State, but also in Kaduna, where we had, certain, ethnic tribe has gone to attack another, ethnic tribe, and that's the similar narrative in the whole of the northern parts of the country. So, if you can tell us what you're doing, what are the measures at this moment that Miyetti Allah is putting before we, I hear Dr. Momale is back.
The measure we are adopting is, apart from the sensitization, we are reaching out to community leaders, reaching out to religious leaders, reaching out to traditional rulers, reaching out to non-community leaders in those areas, talking to them about how to broker peace, about how to come together and discuss on the ways out of this crisis. This is what Miyetti Allah is doing, because this is that much that we can do. We are not a security agency and we are not a government. Much of what we can do is more of reaching out to stakeholders, critical stakeholders for that matter. As I said, religious leaders, traditional rulers, security agencies, government, go discuss, sort out with them, give them your own perspective on how you think this crisis can be solved. I have made mention that adopting the community-based approach is the best system that can be used. Getting all the stakeholders to discuss, define their own peace, ask them questions. What can we do? How can we solve this problem? And also do something about the establishment of vigilantes and what have you. Most of the times, the establishment of these vigilantes or militias, tribal militias, is what escalates the problems. So we have to do something. When we are establishing a vigilante or community watch or whatever name you give it, you have to work with the security, you have to get them registered, know them, know their activities, profile them very well before you get them involved. That is another aspect. And secondly, on the pastoralist side, we are always calling on government to try and register pastoralists across the country. Let all states know the number of pastoralists that are living in a particular state. And let us also know the number of the cows that are living, because the last time a census was conducted in this country was in 1991. That was the last time a livestock census was conducted in this country. We have to know the number of the cows we have in this country. And let us also know the number of the pastoralist families we have in this country in relation to states. Let's know which state has more number of pastoralists than where. And let's know which particular traditional rural domain that has more pastoralists than the other. When we get them registered, that is when we will isolate the good ones from the bad ones, the incoming infiltration from the original pastoralists that we are living together with.
All right.
So these are the things that Miyetti Allah has been calling on. These are the things that Miyetti Allah has been working on as a pastoralist group, because we are an association. There is nothing, I don't think there is much we can do about it. And secondly too, the issue of media profiling. The media has contributed a lot in portraying the pastoralist negatively as a bad person. So today, it is hardly difficult for somebody to distinguish between the good and the bad pastoralist. So when something happens...
I think it would be appropriate to say some media.
Some of the media houses are out to deliberately profile the pastoralists negatively to the public. And they have almost succeeded in doing that today. Because today, each and every society sees an average pastoralist as a criminal.
Sorry, but let's just put you on hold. Yes.
All right, let's get to Dr. Momale now. Dr. Momale, I just hope that your connection is much better and you have been following the conversation right here in the studio. So, maybe you want to continue with your response to the first question, and then just to add to that, for the Peace Commission, you have made some efforts, in Kaduna, and, like my colleague did say, it looks like the solution was just temporary from latest happenings now in Kaduna. What really is the way forward, Dr. Momale?
Okay, thank you very much. Like I earlier said, the audio at my own end is not very good, so I've not heard most of the contributions from the other speakers. And thank you once again for bringing this issue for discussion. I think, like I said, the challenges are multidimensional. They are multifaceted. As you are trying to deal with the issue and challenge in one part of the state, while you are concentrating effort, something will just crop up from elsewhere. And we need to recognize that some of these bandits that are doing some of this, they are roving populations. They are not that they are just static. They move through the forest areas. They move at night. So it's very difficult, for example, to know what they are planning in a particular area. So these are some of the challenges that we grapple with. These are some of the challenges that our security establishments grapple with. However, coming back to the solutions, I think we need 3 or 4 critical things. One, our traditional leaders and our communities are central to peace and security. And therefore, both our public institutions and especially the security agencies must take communities and community leadership into confidence. And they must involve them. They need to work with them. They have to respect them. Some of this breakdown that we are seeing is because of the behavior of some few members or heads of some of those security formations, especially those that are deployed for operations. Sometimes they are young officers, they have a lot of overzealousness. So we will also continue to appeal to the higher security establishments to do a lot of training for officers and a lot of orientation for officers that will deploy to deal with high-level criminal activities or in areas where there is high-level inter-community conflicts, so that they will go there with impartial minds, with well level of training, for them to recognize that all the communities they are visiting are traumatized and they are victims of various forms of violence. So they should not expect to just go to a community and the community will start naming people or mentioning this, because they easily blame communities for absence of cooperation, and then they begin to show some level of high-handedness, which is inappropriate. I think our security establishment must take community leadership, must take communities with confidence, respect them, and work with them gradually over time to be able to deal with those challenges. I think this is first and foremost. Secondly, our traditional rulers, yes, they play fundamental roles, but they cannot do everything. We all know some, if you go back to the literature, for those that maybe were there in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, we all know the criticisms of the native authorities, the high-handedness, the inefficiency of even the traditional system in dealing with some of those issues in those years. So it's not that everything about the traditional rulers or the traditional authorities is all right. They have capacity to do everything. Our communities will be able to do everything. It's not like that. Without our security establishments, without the local governments, without the state governments, many things will go out of control. So they are still doing a lot, but these challenges are there. So what I'm saying is, for those areas where our traditional rulers have strength, let us give them the capacity and support to do that. One, in the management of land affairs, farming activities, herding activities, being able, our traditional rulers are able to manage that, to resolve some of these disputes over resource use within their domains. I think they should be given this role and be empowered and be trained and be supported to provide these functions. Just like the national president of Miyetti Allah was talking about. In the past, pastoralists, herders, they were not just migrating anyhow. They were not an unorganized group. They had their leaders. For you to move from one area to another, their migration was well coordinated. But with the decline in the influence of these traditional rulers, there is haphazard and uncoordinated movements, and we see people from nowhere going to an unknown destination. In the past, the routes were known, the migrating groups were known by the local authorities, by the traditional rulers, and their origins and destinations were clearly known. So let us go back to some of these practices. I think they will help us a lot in coordinating and stabilizing some of these disturbances. The third aspect I would want to mention is that there is need for a lot of training. There is need for a lot of orientation of both our local communities as well as our local leaders and our various youth and security support groups. Of course, our conventional security cannot hand over security of communities to non-state actors. It is not possible. It will create chaos. So therefore, our security agencies must be equipped. They must be trained and given the right capacity. Well, our own communities should be trained to respond and to understand the new dynamics of the new emerging trends. In the past, we were used to, simple thieves, people committing some little crimes, and so those were the kind. We were not known, armed groups were not known in our regions. Robbing bandits were not known. Extremist groups with even religious extreme views were not known. So all of this is combined and they are committing a lot of havoc. Even ethnic extremism was not existing. Today it is there. You see groups with extreme behavior, attitudes, trying to exclude all others from having any access to any resources within their own, what they define as their own exclusive territories. So we need a lot of training and we need a lot of capacity. Finally, our civil society organizations, like Miyetti Allah, the various community development organizations, they really have a lot of role and a lot of duties to do in sensitization, in engaging with the citizens, in engaging with the government in a continuous basis, in holding security establishments and governments accountable to the citizens. I think we need to do a lot of this to see sustained improvement in peace and security in the country.
All right, many thanks, Dr. Saleh Momale, for your points there. Very vital points you have made. But we'll get back to you, but that will be much later. For now, let's take a break. Please stay with us.
I took an oath to serve this country and give my best at all times. Like I said in the past, no excuse for poor performance from any of my appointees will be good enough. It is the reason I put in place a policy coordination, evaluation, monitoring, and delivery unit in the presidency to make sure that governance output improves in the living condition of our people. We have set the parameters for evaluation. Within the first quarter of this year, ministers and head of agencies with a future in this administration that I lead will continue to show themselves.
All right, welcome back to the program, and I must indeed thank Dr. Saleh Momale for the points that he has that he raised. But let me also take another point that Baba Uthman raised about the issue of porous borders and checking in and checking out of irregular migrants in Nigeria. Dr. Jeffo, the issue of arms bearing, I know people normally will explain out the fact that the pastoralists will have to defend themselves, from unfriendly weather, from reptiles and all that. But it's gone beyond the kind of arms they need to do that. It's not what we see now. They now carry very complex, sophisticated, arms, and that has become worrisome. For instance, we were told that what happened in Plateau, the arms were domiciled within those communities. Is it not high time, for ECOWAS to begin to look at, the convention on stopping the proliferation of illegal arms, as well as looking at the provision of the trade liberalization policy, that is the open border issue, such that it becomes in tune with the reality, the dynamic nature of conflicts now. I'm sure you get my two questions.
Yes. Before I get to the issue of proliferation of arms, I want to react to what Baba said. We must distinguish between the pastoralists and the bandits. The pastoralists might, I'm not saying for sure, solicit the assistance of the bandits when their cattle are rustled. Most of these massacres, you hardly hear of conflict between the herders and the natives until he made this revelation. Now, I'm hearing for the first time that over 180 cattle were rustled, which resulted possibly in the attack, but he also said that they were retrieved. That does not justify the mass killing.
Yes.
But the point I'm making now is that the issue of arms, it will surprise you. That's why I got interested when you answered. A Swiss-based non-profit organization made a research in 2020 and discovered that in Nigeria alone, we have 6.1 million arms in hands of civilians, illegal arms, in Nigeria alone.
Yes.
And that brings a total ratio of 3 out of every 100 Nigerian that is armed. The question is, how did these arms come in? We've talked of porous borders. We've talked of the issue coming from the Sahel, the arms coming from the Sahel. We also have the issue of arms coming from the Niger Delta. But the one in the north here now is too massive, to comprehend. The fact remains that the marauders, the bandits who are operating this are not pastoralists. We must make a distinction between this. Like Baba said, he regulates the activities of Mieti Allah and the pastoralists. They have their parts. But these people, for whatever reason, have just decided to destabilize this country. So we must make a distinction between those. They are two different things.
If you say that they have made up their mind to destabilize this country, why in a certain part? I tried to ask that earlier. Why are we not seeing this kind of attacks in all other parts of this country too? Why is it specific on certain states and local governments?
The problem is that, one, the people are not very conversant with the environment. They move in groups, in droves, like the attack in Bokos. They said we were over 400. So what forest will accommodate such number of people to come and carry a such massive attack on the people? That's why I say we must deploy technology to at least locate these people where they operate, distinguish them from the pastoralists. Pastoralists are not our problems. They are not our problems at all.
But I still like you to conclude on what can be done to check the illegal arms from getting into the wrong hands. Like you said, in fact, some studies put the figure at 8 million.
I was telling you of 2020 figure.
20,
So it should
be in the hands of civilians in Nigeria.
Exactly.
In fact, Nigeria has the most illegal weapons.
And Nigeria also possesses improvised explosive devices.
Yes.
More in the sub-Saharan West Africa.
What can we be done? There's supposed to be a commission. The national...
What can be done? There was a commission on these small and light arms weapons. I don't know what they are doing now. They tried to mop up these arms some time ago, but who are you going to mop up arms with that are not registered? So, for now, I think I was on a program yesterday on Arise in the evening where people were preferring the issue of liberalization of arms. It becomes, because the situation is such that nobody is even safe again. And we are not talking of pastoral. What of the ones happening in the southeast, in the southwest and all this? There's so much arms in the society. So I think the government must do something to regulate and get these arms. If these arrests that were made in Plateau are anything to go by, you should be able to identify the organizer, because they must have leaders.
You know, in the Niger Delta, Dr. Ejiofor, one measure that was taken to, withdraw, to get the militants voluntarily give up their arms was amnesty. You give me voluntarily, bring down your arms, and we give you. And it did magic.
No. There are two different situations.
Okay.
There are two different situations. In the Niger Delta, the people were asking for resource control.
Yeah.
The leaders were known. The leaders of the struggle were known.
But not in this case.
But not in this case. You don't know who are you going to discuss with?
In the case of Plateau, they are known. They are indigenes. There are people living within the same community.
No, you see, we're still missing the point. I agree there's a problem between the indigenes and the headers. But they have the backing and support of these bandits that are operating in the area.
That are not known.
All right, Mike Ejiofor, let's pause.
Not having the backing and the support. These bandits and criminals take advantage of situations. If a place is vulnerable, under trouble, they normally patronize those places to steal, to do their illegal acts. They stole from the pastoralists as well. Today we are talking of over 3 million cows stolen as a result of cattle rustling, and over 10,000 pastoralists killed as a result of cattle rustling. The bandits steal from the pastoralists, so they take advantage of situations. When there is the trouble in a particular area, they come to that area with the intention of perpetrating their own acts. So the situation in Plateau, is condemnable. We have to condemn it because so many lives were lost there. As a right-thinking person, whoever is in the position of leadership must condemn what took place in Plateau, because it's too barbaric, is uncalled for. The spillage of blood is just too much. So this must be stopped. But criminals always take advantage of such situations.
Okay, criminals taking advantage of the situation. So from what you're saying now, Baba Hoffman, you are also saying that even the pastoralists too are vulnerable to these bandits. And they are the ones also causing the issues that you have, besides indigenes of different local governments who have issues.
Exactly.
Okay, let's get to Barrister Francis Danladi, because I'm sure you've heard these comments about bandits. Now it's been termed as bandits, not whether settlers or whatever. In Kaduna, you have a clear picture of what is going on. Would you also toe the same line, or would you say that no, people who are carrying out these heinous crimes are actually people that we know, people that we see in our communities? Or you also agree that bandits and faceless people are involved?
In my state, in my area, the fact is clear that indeed and in fact there are infiltrators. And these infiltrators are mostly the perpetrators of these attacks. But they also work in tandem with the local pastoralists that are staying with our people, either by tacitly forcing them to contribute and help them and act as a directive of where to go. Because in some of the villages that we attacked, we had evidence that the local people who were resident in the area were the people that directed them and give them hints about which house is to be attacked and which one is not to be attacked. So these infiltrators, either by force or by coercion, they brought in the local people who are staying with the people to act as people that direct them to where to attack and where not to attack. That is a big problem again. So in Kaduna State, just like I said, these infiltrators are a big problem. If they are not there, the local people will be at peace and they will work with the natives and everything goes on fine. So my take is this, that government should address that issue. If they are immigrants, if they are moving, they shouldn't stay in a particular place for too long. Let them continue to do their movement. If they want to settle, they should follow the due process of settling so that they will be known that they are settling in one village or the other, and they will settle permanently or on some parts. So, but that is very important, because in my chiefdom, for instance, when we met with the people, with the Hausa, Fulani, and the Chia people, we said, number one, that nobody should carry arms, either to the farm when you are a farmer, or you are a herder, or anywhere. Nobody should carry arms. That anybody who carries arms should be reported accordingly. We took that resolution and we passed it on and we propagate about it and we try to convince the people to act on it. That nobody, whether you are a pastoralist, whether you are a farmer, wherever you are, you shouldn't carry arms within the confine of our chiefdom. And then we inform the security agencies and say, this is the resolution that we take. Now, they tried to enforce it for some time, and we achieved some relative peace because of that resolution. Number two, we said, look, you should not, under no circumstances, should you see a criminal in the cover of religion. He is a Christian, he is a Muslim, he is a pagan, he is Hausa, he is Kataf, he is Fulani. No. That everybody who is a criminal must be seen as a criminal and be treated as a criminal. And that is that. And then one thing about the security agencies, some of them that are posted, they are not behaving, they are not acting in accordance with the oath of their office. They are taking side. They are taking side. So I want a situation where the security officers, the soldiers, the police should act professionally. They should imply the ethics of their profession by treating a criminal as he is, without any sympathy. Whether he is your brother, whether he shared the same faith with you, whether he whatever. No, don't treat him like that. Go in and treat him as a criminal that he is. And we have relative peace. But the reverse is the case. Most of these people that are sent to superintend over the security affairs of these communities, they try to color it when they say it's my people, it's my tribe, it's my religion, and so they fail to act until havoc is done. And then they will start running helter-skelter. And I believe, again, just like we said, the traditional rulers in the areas are very, very important in securing lives and property. That is the truth about it. Because they are living with the people. They know who is where. The only thing that they lack is the control of the apparatus of security, of the apparatus of government. They don't have the funding. So if the traditional ruler could have a certain level of influence as to direct the security agencies to secure a particular place, they have the information. But they will wait until the havoc is done. The traditional ruler will tell them, look, they are about to attack a particular location. These are the movement of the people. But they will not act. And he doesn't have the capacity to direct them to act, to so act. So if he has some level of force within his control and director and command, he can be able to say, look, go to that place and ensure that don't allow this attack, that the information to secure the place. But he doesn't have, and he doesn't have the funding. So whether we like it or not, there's the need to review the security architecture in this country, in this state, and in particular location, by empowering traditional rulers with some level of control.
All right, Barrister Francis Danladi Koza, it's amazing how time flies when we're having a very important conversation such as this. We'd really like to apologize for interrupting you, but we thank you. We do appreciate the fact that you could join us and the points that you have raised as per solutions. Dr. Koza is the Sayim Atiap, and he's from the Atiap Chiefdom in Zangon Kataf local government area of Kaduna State, and also former vice chairman of Zangon Kataf local government area. We thank you very much, and of course we join the rest of Nigerians to commiserate with those who lost their lives in the recent attack in Kaduna State. Thank you very much.
A pleasure.
Let's also appreciate Dr. Sally Momale, the Executive Vice Chairman, Kaduna State Peace Commission. Dr. Momale, it's always a pleasure to have you. Unfortunately, we couldn't take much but the time we had with you, quite informative and enlightening. Thank you, as always, Dr. Momale.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Let me also appreciate Baba Othman Ngezama, who is the president of the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria. Thank you for your frank talk, and we hope that sooner, we will find a solution to all of this, and that every ethnic tribe would learn to live, in peace in every part of Nigeria. And,
thank you for giving me this wonderful opportunity. I appreciate it.
And finally, let me also appreciate for coming this morning to join us, Dr. Mike Ejiofor, former Director, State Security Service. As always, thank you for your input, Dr. Ejiofor.
It's my pleasure, even though I'm not a doctor yet.
Well, you waited to the last point to tell us that. Anyway, thank you very much. So let's quickly go to Sports Desk now for some sports updates.
Kelechi Iheanacho will link up with the Super Eagles teammates on Tuesday, January 9th, ahead of the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations, according to President of Nigeria Football Federation, Ibrahim Gutsal.